Elizabeth Keats is going to be taking us through a beautiful conversation on how to paint a still life, the art of unthinking. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Elizabeth Keats. And Elizabeth is a student and teacher of A Course in Miracles. She's an ordained minister through Pathways of Light, and she leads a call on our Miracles Live 365 calls here through SpeakEasy and facilitates Byron Katie's work called The Work once a month here at SpeakEasy and through private appointments. And she's masterful at it, I can tell you that. Her spiritual life has been a journey from devout Catholicism to meditation at the feet of a guru in India, and finally finding a home in studying, practicing, and living the Course, A Course in Miracles. And her talk today is entitled How to Paint a Still Life, the Art of Unthinking. And so it is my absolute pleasure to give you Elizabeth Keats.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody. I so appreciate being here with all of you. We're going to talk about stillness this morning because that's what I need to focus on. I don't know about anybody else. So I grew up on Long Island in the 60s, and it seemed we had a massive hurricane every year. I can remember looking out the windows of our old Victorian house and watching gale force winds bend our tall trees, hearing huge leaf-laden branches crack and break, taking down power lines that sparked in the darkness. Hurricanes were loud, powerful, dark, and relentless. But then came the eye of the storm. The sun reappeared. Every leaf was still. There was no sound at all. It was lovely, still. We'd all relax a little, breathe again. But then we knew Hurricane Part 2 would show up at any minute. Perhaps this memory reminds us of our inner world, where our thoughts blow us about relentlessly, making up fearful stories, imaginary conversations with people who aren't even there, creating inner drama. And then, if you're on some sort of spiritual journey, and aren't we all, every now and then we enter the eye of the storm. For a few minutes, for an hour, maybe for a day, sometimes even a week or more, we experience relative stillness. Nothing upsets us. We meet everything from an enlightened awareness. We live in gratitude. And then we decide to switch internet providers, and we are right back in the hellscape of hurricane season. Our minds are hurricanes. They're dangerous, they're loud, and they're out of control, as long as we listen to them. Unlike hurricanes, however, they can be tamed. We think relentlessly, we think inconsistently, we think dishonestly, and we judge ourselves for every thought. All of this makes a life of chaos, a world of chaos. So let's do an experiment. Right now, tell me what your next thought is going to be. What are you going to think about next? I'll give you a moment. You don't have any idea, do you? Try it again. What's your next thought? We don't know because thoughts generate themselves. We don't have any control over what pops up. Now, try stopping your thoughts. Just stop right now. No more thinking. How'd that go? So let's acknowledge that our thinking is out of our control. But in chapter 2, the Course says we are much too tolerant of mind wandering. So how do we go about unthinking? The way the Course tells us to do every important thing, we undo it. How do we forgive according to the Course? Forgiveness is still and quietly does nothing. It merely looks and waits and judges not. And what is salvation? It is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. We can't stop thinking, but we can stop believing what we think. We can take all our recurring incessant thoughts to Byron Katie's inquiry. Can I absolutely know this thought is true? The answer to that question, when we sit with it in openness, is almost always no. And in that recognition, peace and quiet take its place. We come more and more to live in present moment awareness, where the love and light of God shines in and all about us. Chapter 24 in the text, the Christ in you is very still. He looks on what he loves and knows it as himself. I'm just going to read that again. The Christ in you is very still. He looks on what he loves and knows it as himself. Specialness, too, takes joy in what it sees, although it is not true. So we choose every waking moment. Do I want specialness? Specialness shows up every time I believe what I'm thinking. Specialness, according to the Course, takes joy in what it sees, although it's not true. And that includes every judgment we make. Let's be honest here. We take joy in our judgments because they make us feel better about ourselves, superior, morally, ethically, intellectually. As long as somebody else is worse than me, I imagine I am off the hook. But guess what? There's no hook. It's imaginary. Instead of specialness, we can make the choice to be still and attend to the Christ within. He is looking on what he loves and knowing it as himself. That's you and me. So this is our choice, to live in stillness with the Christ, or to be part of the storm by believing our thoughts, harming ourselves with imaginary fears and futile wishes. Chapter 24, before your brother's holiness, the world is still, and peace descends on it in gentleness and blessing, so complete that not one trace of conflict remains to haunt you in the darkness of the night. Yeah, if you're not reading the text, I suggest show up with Sherry on Tuesdays. These words are so beautiful and they go right into our heart. I'm asked to see my brother's innocence, no matter what he's doing. And there's always this famous quote, when you meet anyone, remember it's a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in him you will find yourself or lose yourself. When we believe our thoughts, we live in a constant state of want. As Katie puts it, I want, I need, you should, you shouldn't. Endlessly seeking what's going to hurt us, holding on to what is ephemeral, avoiding what we think might cause us pain, passing judgment on other people, on other countries, on technology, on our bodies, on their bodies, even the weather. We have a recurring commentary of shoulds and should nots. Every should and every should not that shows up in our minds is an opportunity for forgiveness. So how do we forgive the ugly, meaningless, vain chatter? By looking at it with no judgment. That's what Keith Kavanaugh talks. And I used to be so confused when he said that. How do I not judge myself for judging? But like so much of the course, the answer is so very simple that we often miss it. How do I not stand in the hot sun? By stepping into the shade. How do I not judge? By just looking at my meaningless judgments without any commentary on it. Just look. Oh, there's that thought again. I think I'll go have a cup of tea. The miracle, again, chapter 28, the miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. It reaches gently from that quiet time. And from the mind it healed in quiet then, to other minds to share its quietness. So I reach my quietness and then I extend. Miracles occur in stillness. They're not about reframing the story. We don't see it differently because we make up a story. I'm going to forgive her. She's had a hard day. She grew up in a dysfunctional home. I'm going to be more patient with her. I'm going to let this go. The Course has such a great expression for that. Forgiveness to destroy. I am better than her, different from her. I will gift her with my forgiveness to show how very spiritual I am. No. Forgiveness, quote, reaches gently from that quiet time, and from the mind it healed in quiet then to other minds to share its quietness. I quiet my story about her, and other I have projected from my own sense of who I am. She's nothing but my mirror. Her behavior is showing up to demonstrate something about myself that I do not want to look at. Very early in the Course, we are told perception is projection. It's foundational. There is no she out there because the Course in Miracles is founded in non-duality. Only love is real. Only God is real, and I am one with God. So if I'm imagining someone in my world needs my forgiveness, I recognize what you thought your brother did has not occurred. In quiet, I let go of the story I made up about my brother. In the Course, brother refers to everybody: mother, father, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, politician. It uses male terminology because that's what we used to do in the olden times. And some of us need to forgive ourselves for having an issue about that. I know I did for many years. Forgiveness is still and quietly does nothing. No new stories, no rationalizations. It does nothing by letting go of the story I made up. Quote, do nothing then, and let forgiveness show you what to do. This is where my little term unthinking comes in. Quote, now must you forgive whom he has saved, whose sinlessness he sees, and whom he honors as the Son of God. When we release our story about our brother, when we recognize I'm the one who made it up, it disappears. You did not have to work at not believing in Santa Claus. You just recognized that story wasn't true and it disappeared automatically, painfully perhaps, but automatically. When we take our lies to truth, when we ask ourselves with courage and honesty, can I absolutely know that this is true? Then our lies vanish automatically. Just a little willingness is all he asks of us. Here's a perfect definition of what I mean by unthinking, and it's from chapter 31 in the text. Let us be still an instant and forget all things we ever learned, all thoughts we had, and every preconception that we hold of what things mean and what their purpose is. Let us remember not our own ideas of what the world is for. We do not know. Let every image held of everyone, including ourselves, be loosened from our minds and swept away. Imagine living like that. Perhaps it sounds dangerous, silly, irresponsible. I cherish what I've learned and haven't already forgotten. I love my ideas about the world. I'm right about so much that I think I'm the one who should be in charge. Everything should be the way I think it should be. We should have no wars. We should have no hunger. There should be equality and justice and peace, yada, 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 yada. No. The purpose of this world is not for any of those things. We dreamt this world up as a place where God could enter not. We entertained a tiny, crazy idea, and then we forgot to laugh at it. We wanted separation, individuality, specialness. We wanted to experience being alone in a body with lots of separate bodies around to blame for our guilt at imagining we could leave God. As if God, who is love, who is all there is, could ever be left. Think about it. Despite Maise's beautiful song, this entire world is built on living things killing and eating other living things to survive. It may be beautiful, but it's also insane. And the voice in our heads commenting on it is equally insane. So the purpose of the world, according to the Course, is to wake up from the dream and remember who we are. When we've been told, everybody loves this line, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is our good. It does not mean everything is going to go my way. A happy ending is guaranteed does not mean somebody I love will be cured of cancer. I will get my perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect political leaders. Actually, you know what? It does mean that. Every single thing will be perfect for me to find my way home, for me to learn my forgiveness lessons, for me to come finally to accept atonement for myself. When we can remember why we're here, nothing ever can go wrong. Everything is an opportunity for me to choose love where I once chose fear, for me to forgive where I once blamed, to accept what is rather than fight against it. Isn't it interesting that atonement in the Course is not something we learn or gain or earn? It's something we simply accept. We accept that we are one with God, and so is everybody else. That's the whole enchilada. We say accept it because it is already ours. We are already saved. We are already one with God. Right this moment, Sunday morning, 11:04 a.m. Chicago Daylight Time, we are saved. We are a thought in the mind of God. We never left the mind of God. So the purpose of the world is to bring us back to this truth. Every event, every person, every moment of our lives is here to remind us of God's love, of my brother's perfect wholeness and holiness, and therefore my perfect wholeness and holiness. The Course tells us salvation can be said to be letting go of all concepts. All concepts. And what are concepts? Ideas, thoughts, nothing more. So salvation is unthinking. We do it every single holy instant when we remember who we are and whose we are. So what do we replace all of that thinking with? From lesson 135. A healed mind doesn't plan. It carries out the plans that it receives through listening to the wisdom that is not its own. It waits until it's taught what should be done and then proceeds to do it. Imagine living like that. It involves a lot of waiting, which I have to say I'm not very good at. So I'm going to end with my favorite paragraph in the whole book, which is impeccable instruction for living a still life while unthinking. Simply do this: be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is. All concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself, empty your mind of everything it thinks is either true or false or good or bad, of every thought it judges worthy, and of all the ideas of which it is ashamed. Hold on to nothing. Do not bring with you one thought the past has taught, nor one belief you ever learned before from anything. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy, empty hands unto your God. And I would add, forget this sermon, forget this service, and listen to the voice for God telling you exactly what to do. Thank you, everybody. God bless.
Wow, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm not sure if we should have a conversation or just forget the whole thing. Just, for the sake of Speakeasy, I am going to pass it to Gigi for the community offering, and then we will have a conversation.
SpeakEasy is a non-for-profit virtual spiritual community, and we exist on the generosity of our community members. We thank you for playing your part and for taking the opportunity to make a donation for today's daily bread. And I would have to add that Elizabeth added some butter and homemade jam to that daily bread today. Your generous donations help us bring spiritual leaders, artists, and speakers to Sunday service and to keep important conversations going. As you were spiritually fed by today's conversation, I invite you to go within and to see what is yours to share. No gift is too small. The donation link is in the chat, as well as on our website, SpeakEasySpiritualCommunity.com. And I know that the Course says, as we give, we so receive. And I really feel like I have received so much today. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank
And for the truly unique experience of Speakeasy Sunday service, our community conversation. And this is where we invite you to speak easily, to find your voice, your truth, and to share your thoughts and inspirations, awarenesses, and your questions in community. I'm just going to begin. Elizabeth, that was so beautiful. I could feel your peace as you were talking, first of all. I could. I know you had a couple comments about your voice, but honestly, it was beautiful. And that look, wait, and judge not. Let me look. Oh, I'm having that thought again. I can just look at it instead of judging it. And I can just wait and listen for the voice for God, the voice of truth, and just not judge any of it. And that right there is a masterclass. But you started with that look, wait, and judge not. And then you gave us the example of how we can't stop thinking. Like thinking is just going to happen. But we can stop believing what we're thinking. I would love for you to share your own personal experience or just any words of wisdom of that little pivot, because that's key. It's well, I've got this thinking going on. I can look at it. I could believe it. I could get into a whole story about it. I could get myself all worked up about it. I could judge. And then it's going to impact my behavior and how I show up in the world in every relationship and my whole experience of life. Or I could be thinking, looking at it, following that look, wait, judge, not actually believing it, and go have a completely different experience of life. And just what do you have to share with us about
I
that
think you put
pivot?
it beautifully, Beth. I don't think there's anything left to say. To me, the key difference, because, we've all been doing this for so many years. And I see Charlie, my very first Course in Miracles teacher, is here today, and I so welcome you. That the difference that I feel inside me is that we know the Course, so we all have a sense of this is what I should be doing. I should not judge anything. And yet we are judging machines. They're gonna keep coming. So the key to me is when I see the judgment, I don't hurt myself because of it. I don't judge myself, which only exacerbates the problem. So it doesn't matter what the issue is. As soon as I see myself in that place of this should not be happening, that's essentially what it is. Whether it's a person or an event, it's some thought that this is wrong and it should be different than it is. And when I see that, I recognize that I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about in my head, and that it wouldn't be happening if it weren't absolutely perfect for me in the moment. So I guess I'm going to share this. There's a person in my life who tends to be rather angry and often tends to express that anger to me. And it happened last night. And so I woke up a little, and then because this is the way it goes, right? Then I go on Facebook and there's a video of Ken Wapnick entitled, Just Let Everybody Be Exactly as They Are. And it was all about, it kind of surprised me because I don't know this stuff. It was all about Helen being angry at pretty much everybody all the time. She was in a constant rage. And Ken tried to get her all calmed down and get her balanced. And then the next day when he came back, she was furious at him for doing that. It was so funny. And I thought, bingo, it's you don't make up a story about this angry person in your life. You don't take personally anything this person says, and you recognize that you wouldn't be seeing an angry person in your life if you didn't have some anger that still needs healing. So everything becomes a juicy bite that we can partake of and get better at. Yeah.
Wow, that was beautiful. And you kept referring to basically getting into the present moment, that when we stop believing our thoughts, we're in the moment. And it's that present moment awareness that helps us make that shift. Yeah. Thank
Every
you.
time.
Every time. Yeah. Brianna.
Hey, hi, good morning. Thanks, Rev Elizabeth. I took a note about what you had said, and I just wanted to thank you for that reminder about chapter 31 in the text where it says, "Let us be still an instant, we do not know." And I think so often when I'm upset or trying to figure something out, right? That has always been a comfort. Like, don't try to figure it out. You just don't know. It's okay, and I always love the reminder to be gentle with myself because I think obviously I can be my own worst critic, and so I want to be a cheerleader, I think, for myself. And I think probably the biggest thing I got was from your message was being still. And I think that's where you get that chance to let yourself off the hook and recognize that we just don't know, and that's okay, because that survival mode is so strong, right? And so, yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Brianna.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, Dove. Dove, you're muted. Could you unmute?
Okay, thank you so much, Rev Elizabeth. That was the best sharing from A Course in Miracles that I've ever really heard in such exactly as Bella said, such a peaceful way that it all just rolled out. It was so
Thank you.
pure, like right from Holy Spirit. I mean, it really was. I mean, masterful, priceless, and really the best. I'm telling you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank
Wow.
you, Deb, but of course, the best would be a comparison, and we don't compare, do we?
It was just the best I ever heard.
Oh, yeah, that's not hyperbolic. I love you, Dov. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dove. It's really clear, beautiful. And Dove, you've been around A Course in Miracles for a long time. So I guess it would be a judgment to say that's high praise.
A judgment for what?
There would be a judgment to say that's high praise coming from Dove.
Yes.
It's so important to recognize that if this was good, it's Holy Spirit. Because Maureen asked me to do this months ago and I forgot all about it. And then I heard I was doing it and I've been sick all week. And I'm like, I don't even know what to talk about. And then, you sit down and open the book and Holy Spirit writes the sermon. So, yeah.
Exactly. That part about, when you can get still and not plan anything, then everything is there.
I love that. Holy Spirit writes the sermon.
Yes.
There's a word for that. Trust. to rely upon Spirit totally. Thank you.
Yes. You got a good dose of that, Elizabeth, this week. And it shows. It definitely does. You also commented about specialness, being joy in our judgments, makes us feel good about ourselves, and it takes us off the hook, but really there was no hook. I think that we all enjoy that specialness. And, without having that kind of joy, some people are well, what are we doing here then? Like, what are we doing here? I would wonder if you could just speak to that a little bit. Like,
Well, I think the specialness goes both ways too. It's not only, I am smarter than A, B, C, and D, but it's also I'm a worse mother than A, B, C, and D, or I'm a better mother than A, B, or I'm a worse wife. Or all of it just makes me feel alone and different instead of connected to all. And it's hard to let go of it because it's so embedded, beginning with birth, where is it a boy or a girl? It'll be special depending on which gender it is, and which, it's always about what's unique about me. Nothing is unique about us. we are all, as Dove likes to say, we're all the same. And so to have either, oh, I'm so special, or I am one with all, and the relaxation that brings, the ah, you know, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna invite people into the conversation here, but I just want to speak to that concept of forgiveness. And when someone has really experienced something that they're perceiving and believing as offensive or painful or whatever it is that the experience is, and what you shared is that forgiveness is I get quiet with my story about whatever it is. And that perception is projection. So if I'm perceiving something, it's in me and I'm projecting it. And so when I forgive that person or situation or whatever, then I can come back home to myself. And just in that heated trigger moment when we literally go insane in the belief, we can't really wait. We're just in the belief of it. What would you suggest for people?
I would suggest forgiving ourselves afterwards.
Okay.
As I mentioned briefly, I changed internet providers and everything went wrong day after day after day. And I did not stay calm and relaxed and centered. So I did not forgive moment to moment. And not only have I come to be okay with that, I come to be grateful for that, because we are here to clean up the gunk inside that we put a spiritual cover over all the time. We, especially in this community, we're all wise women and we're all so loving and kind. And then we need something like the internet not working the minute after the guy drove away in his truck to see our reaction to it, to see, oh boy, I have more healing work to do. So I forgive myself for losing my shit completely. And then I am grateful that I got an opportunity to see, oh, I still carry little Betty the victim around, and not slap her the way that I used to. Now you hold her, you love her. Then the other thing, I wouldn't be me if I didn't suggest, if something really, really holds on, Byron Katie's work is just such a way to heal it. And it works for me. And it's worked for so many in this community who have come and used the tools. So yeah,
I
Joni's
love that. I love the shift from, slapping that little victim around to just come here, let me just love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really about changing what happens, it's about how we perceive what happens.
Always.
Yes. And then the experience is no longer as painful. It can be an experience just to express love, to be that extension.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Okay. So you also said we are already one with God, and so is everyone else. So every event, person is reminding us of God's love and my own perfect wholeness and holiness. You're basically saying to do the same thing with another as you would with yourself. So, I imagine, I know for myself, I could think of a lot of people that I might have a hard time doing that with. So I have more work to do. And anything that you might want to say about that when doing this with another? Same thing, doing the work?
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. And, Beth, when you brought up that everything that we're perceiving is our projection of what's inside us, that's where we get to with Byron Katie, when what I'm accusing the other person of, I get to recognize, oh, I do it too. And if I didn't do it too, it wouldn't bother me in the other person. When that angry person in my life yells at me, I know she's showing me the way. Every now and then I yell at myself, or every now and then I yell at the universe for things going on in the world. You know, I don't tend to yell at other people, but now that I've said that, I probably will. So you know how that goes.
I do know how that goes. And I also know that when I actually get still, the thoughts of God, ideas, inspiration come in, things I never thought of before. And I'm like, oh, I get out of my own way, and it's like breadcrumbs being laid in front of me, one thought that I follow to the next, to the next. And I find myself on a beautiful path. But it does require that willingness to look, wait, judge not, and just listen for that voice for truth, the voice of God. And but that, I mean, that's it, the practice right there.
That's it. That's it. And you know, it's funny because when we do the stillness and we ask for help, then we open up Facebook and there's a Ken Watnick video, which is exactly what I needed. And you know, I there's a part of me that wants to judge this angry person, but then when you hear that the woman who brought us A Course in Miracles was often in a rage, it's like, who the heck am I to judge anybody? You know, it's just silly. It's another tiny, crazy, mad idea that we come up with, that I could be, you know, oh, that person is angry. Ooh, no, none of
Yeah,
my
we don't
business.
know what they're struggling with or
None of my
dealing
business.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard so many stories where people have judged, and then later they're like, oh, this person who was really cranky and rude was at work, and their son was in the ICU, had been riding a bicycle and hit by a car. And they were just trying to get through the day to make enough money to pay the mountain of medical bills that's mounting. Complete shift in thought process from, ooh, that person's rude, to having compassion for someone who is struggling with a, a really challenging situation.
And if we remember that every angry person is calling out for love, then we know what to do. Just
Yes.
love them. Just love them.
Just love, just love.
Don't
And
try to change them. Don't try to fix them. Just love them.
well, and our judgment is what makes the world a place where God cannot enter. But when we wake up from that dream and remember who we are and become those extensions of God's love, well, then the whole world is a beautiful place. And then we can go with Maise's song, What a Wonderful World.
Yes.
Yeah. So would anyone else like to contribute to the conversation? Because if you would, now is your time. And Elizabeth, I would love for you to just share one more time the last piece that you, the impeccable instructions for unthinking.
Sure. I can never read that too often. It is, it's workbook lesson 189, and it's paragraph 7, if anybody wants to look it up. So 189, paragraph 7, simply do this. Be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is, all concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. Empty your mind of everything it thinks is either true or false, good or bad, of every thought it judges worthy, and all the ideas of which it is ashamed. Hold on to nothing. Do not bring with you one thought the past has taught, nor one belief you ever learned before from anything. Forget this world, forget this course. and come with holy empty hands unto your God.
Thank you. Simply stunning is what that is. Bringing tears to my eyes. So beautiful, Elizabeth Keats. Thank you. We have been truly blessed by your sharing, your willingness to, in the midst of not feeling well and still showing up and sharing. We have all been blessed by you allowing Holy Spirit to speak through you. Thank you. And with that, I am going to pass it to Maise for our final song.
Hello again. That also just brought tears to my eyes. There's something about the right order of words that just like, it really hits. I feel like the lesson just never ends. I'm like still percolating. I don't know. Thank you so much for being here and saying all of that and for that discussion. Both of you just contributing so much. Like my mind is, I'm like, I literally wrote down one thing that came up to me that I wanted to say before I sing this song. I personally like have struggled a lot with like overthinking and overanalyzing and also like anger, and have gotten to the point where I can now see like, okay, anger is like a message. It's telling me something. It's trying to communicate something to me. And so then, you allow yourself that human moment to like understand where that's coming from. You move forward without that judgment, whatever. But like you mentioned at the beginning of your talk, like thoughts, we are not in control of the fact that we think, and we're not necessarily in control of what we think. The thing that finally got me to be able to not think, but actually be present, I was watching an Eckhart Tolle video, and I know that he talks about A Course in Miracles a lot, and he just said this one thing where it finally clicked. And he was talking about how like atoms, right? Everything is moving, everything is alive. And so if everything is alive, this table, me, my cat, we're all vibrating. In essence, the universe appearing as us is experiencing itself. And I just thought that was like crazy. Like it just blew my mind. And I feel like from that, I was able to then be like, oh, I am the universe. I am not like a thinking being. I am now in this room observing everything without judgment, and it was like the ultimate thing that just like cut me off from my thoughts and put me, so I just wanted to like offer that in case that was helpful for anybody, because like for me that was the thing. And I just think it's so cool to think about, and even in that regard, like the song that I'm gonna finish up with today, it's called Homeward Bound. I think it can mean a lot of things to different people. For me, the essence of this song has to do with, at the end of the day, it's like in the quiet misty morning when the moon has gone to bed, sort of when all is said and done and all has been stripped away, I'll return to you somehow. I'll be homeward bound in time. That's what this is about to me. So I hope this brings you some peace as you move on with the rest of your days. Thank you for letting me talk a little bit before I sing. And just thank you again, everybody, for being here and for having me and for sharing everything that you shared. Here we go. In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red, when the summer ceased its gleaming, when the corn is past its prime, when adventure's lost its meaning, I'll be homeward bound in time. Bind me not to the pasture, chain me not to the plow, set me free to my calling, and I'll return to you somehow. Bind me not to the pasture, chain me not to the plow. Set me free to find my calling, and I'll be homeward bound in time. I'll be homeward bound in time.
Just, oh, gorgeous. Thank you. Wow. Maise Bull, Elizabeth Keats, everyone here. Thank you. My heart is full. God bless everyone. Come on back.